you've ever visited Chicago, you probably remember the skyline, the deep dish pizza, maybe catching a Cubs game at Wrigley Field. For decades, this was America's heartland metropolis, the kind of place where families could build a life and businesses could thrive. But things have changed. The city that once symbolized American resilience is now grappling with problems that seem to grow worse by the day. Walk through certain neighborhoods today, and you will see boarded up storefronts where thriving businesses once operated. In the downtown Loop alone, nearly 1 in 3 storefronts is now vacant, with retail vacancy around 30%, roughly double what it was before the pandemic. Since 2020, more than 200 Loop retailers have shut their doors, leaving hundreds of thousands of square feet of empty space behind. Crime statistics tell a story that is hard to ignore. Chicago has recorded more homicides than any other city in the United States in recent years. While killings have fallen from the pandemic peaks, the violence is still heavily concentrated. Some analyses found that black residents are more than 20 times more likely to be killed than white residents, and neighborhoods with the highest homicide rates see dozens of times more murders than the safest ones. At the same time, the number of Chicagoans experiencing homelessness has climbed. One report estimated that around 76,000 people in the city experienced some form of homelessness in a single year. Tens of thousands were on the street or in shelters. Tens of thousands more were doubled up with friends or family, and thousands cycled through migrant shelters. That total is sharply higher than the year before. The exodus of residents and businesses has accelerated. The census shows that Chicago grew slightly between 2010 and 2020, reaching about 2.75 million residents. Since the mid-2010s, though, the city has lost people every year, shedding roughly 128,000 residents and dropping to its lowest population since the 1920s. So what is driving this transformation? How did a city that survived the Great Fire of 1871 and multiple economic crashes end up struggling just to maintain basic order and prosperity? Over the next few minutes, I want to walk you through the web of factors feeding this collapse. We will look at the data behind the headlines, the policies that promise solutions but may have made things worse, and what everyday residents are dealing with on the ground. Let me start with where people are going. Families are packing up and heading to suburbs outside Cook County or leaving Illinois entirely for states like Texas, Florida, and Tennessee. Illinois has a reputation for high taxes and heavy debt, with state pension obligations in the hundreds of billions of dollars. That constant financial pressure hangs over Chicago too. Business owners are following the same path. In 2022, Caterpillar moved its global headquarters from the Chicago area to Texas. Boeing shifted its corporate headquarters from Chicago to Virginia hedge fund giant Citadel moved from Chicago to Miami, with its founder openly citing crime and taxes as reasons for leaving. These moves took hundreds or thousands of high-paying jobs, major downtown leases, and millions in tax revenue out of the city. Meanwhile, small businesses have been closing at alarming rates in key districts. In the Loop, retailers have vacated more than 200 storefronts since 2020, and retail vacancy in the central business district is now about twice its 2019 level. Restaurant owners talk about impossible operating conditions. Store managers describe constant theft that wipes out profit margins. Service businesses struggle to keep staff as people worry about their safety commuting to work. The office market is not doing much better. Downtown Chicago's office vacancy rate has hit the mid-20s, around 26% or more, and it has stayed near record highs for multiple years in a row. That means more than a quarter of all office space. Downtown is sitting empty. Buildings in the Loop and River North that once buzzed with activity now have whole floors. Dark property values tell another part of this story. While real estate markets in cities like Miami and Austin have surged, Chicago has seen stagnant or declining values in many neighborhoods. Population loss, high taxes, and concerns about crime push buyers and investors to other places. For long-time residents, that can mean being stuck in homes that are worth less than their mortgages in areas they no longer feel safe in. When home values drop, property tax revenue falls. When businesses close, sales tax income disappears. When people move away, the entire tax base shrinks. The city ends up with less money to provide basic services, which makes conditions worse, which drives more people away. That is the cycle Chicago is caught in. City officials have tried tax incentives, new development projects, and public safety initiatives to restore confidence. Some neighborhoods have seen small wins, but the overall trend is still down. The city's financial troubles run deeper than most people realize. Chicago carries one of the heaviest pension burdens of any city in America. Estimates put the unfunded liabilities of the main pension systems at around $50 billion or more. Even if you only look at the four core city employee funds, the city still owes tens of billions, and those funds are only around 1/4 funded. In just a few years, Chicago's combined pension debt has grown by billions. Every year, the city has to pour huge amounts of cash into pension payments and interest. That money is locked into past promises. It cannot be used to fix streets, improve schools, or put more officers on patrol. The pension story is simple but brutal. For years, the city underfunded its retirement systems while promising benefits that sounded good politically but were not realistic financially. Now those bills are coming due in the form of higher taxes, service cuts, or both. On top of that, the city's infrastructure is aging. Anyone who drives through Chicago knows about the potholes. Water mains break, the transit system deals with old equipment, crime concerns, and deferred maintenance. These problems might not all have single headline numbers, but they show up as broken trains, long commutes, and unexpected shutdowns, and they make the city less attractive for residents and employers. Then there is the school system, which might be one of the clearest signs of deeper decline. Around 2010, Chicago public schools enrolled roughly 400,000 students today. That number is closer to just over 300,000. The district has lost about 70,000 students in a little more than a decade, with some recent years seeing drops of 10 to 12,000 students at a time. Birth rates in the city have fallen hard, and outmigration is up, so there are simply fewer kids in the system. CPS still runs more than 600 schools. About 150 of them are only half full. Dozens are less than 1/3 full. In some extreme cases, high schools built for hundreds of students now serve only a few dozen. One such school has a chronic absenteeism rate over 60% compared to an already bad district average in the low 40s. The spending math looks crazy. Chicago spends roughly $18,000 to $19,000 per student on average. In severely under-enrolled schools, the cost per student can be more than $90,000 a year. That is 5 times the district average, while still offering a very limited range of classes and programs. And despite that spending, academic outcomes are weak. Only about 2 in 5 Chicago students read at grade level. Only about 1 in 4 is proficient in math. Among low-income 3rd through 8th graders, about 35% meet reading standards and just 19% meet math standards. The gaps between groups are huge. Some breakdowns show overall elementary reading proficiency around 30%. For white students, it is closer to 60%. For Black and Latino students, it sits in the low to mid-20s. Chronic absenteeism has exploded since the pandemic and is strongly tied to poor scores. In some groups, around half of students are missing at least 10% of the school year. Parents who can leave do. Some move to private schools. Others move to suburban districts that have better reputations. That drains the system of both families and future talent. Public safety sits on top of all of this and makes everything worse. On paper, some crime numbers are improving. Homicides in Chicago have dropped from the peak years of 2020 and 2021, when there were months with more than 100 killings. In more recent years, monthly homicides have fallen by roughly half or more from that peak. But that does not mean people feel safe. Aggravated assaults recently hit highs of more than 1,800 incidents in a single month before easing, and violence is heavily concentrated in specific neighborhoods. When one part of the city has a homicide rate dozens of times higher than another, residents in those areas do not care what the citywide average looks like. The perception of danger remains strong. Polls show that fear of violent crime and disorder is one of the main reasons people avoid certain parts of Chicago or decide to leave the city entirely. Constant headlines about shootings and carjackings keep that fear alive. At the national level, Chicago has turned into a talking point.
And one of the last things he said to me is, "Please, sir, save Chicago. We're going to do that. We're going to save Chicago from horrible crime."
In 2025, Donald Trump has talked about sending federal forces and National Guard units into the city to fight crime, pointing at Chicago's homicide numbers as justification. State leaders and city officials call the idea unconstitutional and say they will fight it in court. Even if troops never hit the streets, the fact that the city is being discussed in those terms says a lot about how bad the reputation has become. Retail theft feeds back into the economic decline. Some major chains have closed locations after dealing with constant losses. The Loop has nearly 1 in 3 storefronts vacant. Neighborhood commercial strips have their own rows of dark windows where grocery stores and pharmacies used to be. That creates food deserts and shopping deserts and pushes more people to move. Tourism used to be a bright spot, but even there you can see the damage. Before the pandemic, Chicago hit around 61 million visitors in a year. In 2024, the city pulled in the mid-50 million range. That is better than the worst pandemic year, but still several million short of the peak spending totals. Look big. But part of that is inflation and higher prices, not simply more people visiting. Travel officials admit that concerns about crime, taxes, and constant negative headlines have hurt Chicago's brand. Big events still bring in crowds, but the day-to-day image of the city has taken a hit. So, where does this leave Chicago? We have talked about population loss, corporate exits, crumbling infrastructure, a school system that is losing students while failing to get most kids to grade level, a pension crisis in the tens of billions, rising homelessness, and huge gaps in safety between neighborhoods. None of these problems exist in isolation. Each one feeds the others. The city needs more revenue, but raising taxes risks driving away even more residents and businesses. It needs better services, but the budget is already squeezed by pension payments and debt. It wants to attract new investment, but struggles to guarantee safety and long-term stability. What is happening in Chicago should be a warning to other American cities. These problems did not appear overnight, and they will not disappear overnight. It took decades of bad choices, delayed maintenance, and political shortcuts to get here. Chicago has rebuilt from disaster before, from the Great Fire to deindustrialization. The question now is whether that same spirit can overcome a slow-moving, data-backed collapse that touches almost every part of city life, or whether these trends keep grinding the city down. For millions of people, Chicago is not just a dot on a map, it is home. Whether the city can find a path forward will shape not just its own future, but what American urban life looks like in the decades ahead. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.